All right, everybody. I am here today with Mr. Rick Geary in Orange County. Hey, Rick, thanks for chatting with me today.
Hey, my pleasure. Hope it can help.
Awesome. So I wanted to get Rick and grab a couple minutes of his time because Rick right now has built up a huge pipeline. I think he's got the third most active loans in the whole company. And Rick and I were catching up on some of the things that he has done to have this level, of momentum. And I think it really comes down to a bigger topic that is important for originators, and that's really managing and owning your database. So I thought today, Rick, you and I can talk about, obviously you've been in the industry for a long time. You've got a massive database. Not everybody has that advantage where they have the length of time in years. But I know that there's a lot of people that say, my God, my database management is not up to par. Had I done a good job over the years, I would have so much more business today. And I think because, you've always been really on top of your database, that you're always successful with getting active loans out of it. So I think the message is, doesn't matter if you've been in the business a really long time or you're newer, database management is super important at any stage. So I thought maybe we could just share some best practices, things that you do to really maximize, the opportunities that you have with your database. So maybe you could just kind of break it down a little bit and some of the things that you're doing to really work your database.
Sure, happy to. I think the best thing to do is go back to the beginning, and that is in 92, 93, we were dealing with a flat file database just to try and build up a way to manage clients and who they refer. So we saw the importance of that. I ended up designing and architecting the entire CRM for the last company I was at because of that. We saw that value, and we even built a system where we could click a button and know the referral value of each individual client. So it was great. We had performance metrics on, on those leads and how many of them closed and didn't, and at what profit margins. So we drilled down into data starting back in 95, 96 when SQL Server was still starting out or just starting out. And we were on a flat file database called Q&A before that, if anybody's old enough to remember that one. So I've been doing this full time since 92, 93, and it's always been database first so that you could track your relationships and know the value of the customer in the long term. So yeah, if you're just getting going, data. Use Total Expert that RWM's providing, Mortgage Coach, either one of those. Pick one to live in and make it your gospel truth, so to speak, and just manage the heck out of that thing.
Yeah, and maybe digging in a little bit deeper, managing the heck out of a database, obviously that means a lot of things to a lot of people. What are some of the specific things that you do? And I think the challenge becomes even greater as your database grows to stay on top of the database. So what do you do to stay kind of relevant, top of mind to your database? Is it, birthday calls, annual reviews, all of the above, some different things? What are some things that you do to kind of stay top of mind?
Well, first, it starts with the integrity. So even though RWM's built a great system, well, not even though, I would say because RWM's built such a better system of CRM awareness and data, it's saving us a lot of time compared to the mechanical or manual stuff I'd have to do in managing a data after a closing. But you start with the data integrity, making sure that all that data is consistent, accurate, and set your own targets, for checking on your calendar. There's some cool tools in Sales Boomerang now where some of that manual checking on rates and stuff like that is automated. So thanks to the marketing guys and Greg for getting that running. The other part of that would be, I would say you can use Total Expert to set up some stay in touch campaigns. I know there's a lot in there. You should spend a weekend right now to dig into that. Especially if you're having a surge in production like some of us are, then that's many more clients to then manage going forward and take advantage of. And then I do some kind of a reach out at least once a quarter. I'm staying in touch on birthdays, whether it's phone calls for the clients I've really gotten to know and like. I'll literally call them and check in on their families, not even talk business. I think Scott Morse does that too. It works really well. if nothing else, when anything happens in the headline, if you're staying in touch with your database on a quarterly or more frequent, consistent basis, anything that goes off on CNBC or CNN that has to do with rates or mortgage or the Fed, they should be thinking of you, and it prompts a check-in call. So by staying in touch with them over 27 years and religiously, the media does the advertising for me. I stay top of mind between email campaigns and then social media presence, where I'm always updating something at least once a week, if not 2 or 3 times.
Do you think a majority of your database now is connected to you socially? Have you kind of gone through that exercise, and that is that part of your practice to say, thanks so much, please, follow me on LinkedIn or Facebook, where I'll be sharing a lot of market insights into the future?
Yeah, you would think so, maybe, because of the response. Like you've noted that how much my production's up here just in the last couple of months. I think the ones who've connected with me are the ones whose kids I've watched grow up, and we really connected on a personal level over some phone calls. When I first rolled out social media over the last 5 years, I kind of did it in 2 stages: LinkedIn first and then Facebook. But I haven't actually pushed out friend requests to my whole database where you can actually do that and create a custom group.
Yeah.
I haven't done that because I don't post a lot personally on Facebook. I just do the business page stuff to try and help agents and referral partners and consumers in general. So I haven't gone as avidly about that. So no, I think I've got probably my core, I would call my evangelists, are friends with me and follow my page. And that's the other thing, growing a database organically. Like, we never advertised it. It was literally Facebook before Facebook existed, where all my database knows each other through 1 or 2 degrees. So if I'm doing a deal with Joe, he's calling Bob, who told me about him, or Mary, who told her about him, right? So I think they all advertise for me because I've always put the client's interest first while growing that database. It was never about numbers. It was a scale like this, not like this.
Yep.
So it was slow. I didn't make a lot of money for the first 5 years. After that, I've always made at least enough to save money and pay my bills, right, for the last 15 years. The first 5 years was a lot of work.
Yeah.
And now it's fun because now the clients that are still with me after all these years, it's literally like going to see friends for dinner.
Awesome.
They're always fun phone calls. I've had so much fun connecting with people on Zoom and Facebook, and some of these people I never met face to face ever in 20 years, in 25 years, and now we're doing Zoom calls.
Awesome.
Meeting for the first time.
Yeah.
So it's been a blast this last 2 months. It's been a lot of 16-hour days, but it's been so much fun.
It's
awesome.
awesome.
Kind of like watching your kids grow up.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, maybe something to consider is thinking about trying to figure out ways to move more of your database into social,
Yeah.
Be it LinkedIn or Facebook, because I think that's the beauty of social media, is that you feel connected to these people because they're going to watch you and do these different things, and they kind of grow with you over time. So
totally agree. And I think this time right now just gave us all that opportunity.
Yeah.
Right? There's no reason, because we're all suddenly human again, not only a business transaction. It's just a natural invite time right now.
No, and I would think if I was originating now, that may be part of my practice, right? Thanks so much. We started your loan application. Here's a link to my social media. Why don't you connect with me here? I share tons of great insight about the marketplace and different things. So just a way to make it a kind of part of your practice, and then kind of get people caught up too,
That's a great point to start it early. I gotta write that down.
No worries.
Seriously, because I do it at the end, and I think it's better to do it now while the excitement is.
Well, a lot of the stuff that I've been kind of like reading and learning about, through different, top originators, is that, some of the best time to ask for referrals or connections is in the beginning, because really nothing can go sideways. It's all fresh and new. And, I think if you pose it in a way that it's kind of going to be sharing education, there's a reason to connect. People will be like, oh, great. I want to see the insights, and I want to stay up to speed on the marketplace. So that might be something interesting. I'll share something else that I heard the other day, and maybe Rick, you could tell me what you do. But I heard an originator that said they were having a little bit of trouble managing their database. So they just came up with an old school way, and you said you connect with people quarterly, and I imagine you have hundreds, thousands, however many people in your database. So it's like, how do you know that you made those connections once a quarter? What this person did is they said, okay, there are, I'm going to go through my database. There are 26 letters in the alphabet. There are 52 weeks in the year. So every week I'm calling the A's, week 2 I'm calling the B's, and that way I'll cycle through my database at least 2 times a year. And if I want to set things up, then I call A's and the B's in week 1 and season. So I thought that was like an interesting old school approach, because to me that is almost something that becomes a little challenging. It's like, okay, what if you have 1,000 people? How do you remember who you called last quarter versus this quarter? And then how do you cycle it? So do you have a system that you use to kind of keep on top of that?
No, and it's funny because I used to work with Carl White, and that was one system he taught.
Okay.
Was doing that, and that was old school because he's a big phone guy. So no, I do it off email. It's made it easier so I can send it all at the same time. Usually I send it in 2 chunks so I can actually handle responses and get overwhelmed, because there's, I think, 748 was the last blast I sent out with valid emails.
Okay.
So, I don't want to, if you get a 10% or even a 5% response, that's 35 emails to be realistic and honest about when you're replying. And I don't know if I can do that in a day and manage the current business. So I usually send it out in 3 or 2 waves.
Okay.
But the phone call thing is great. I've kind of replaced that by doing it on the birthday thing.
Yep. So, okay. Yeah. That way you're at least checking in with them once a year, and that's a personal message. And
yeah. And then, unfortunately, I've got a team. I've got Casey that helps me out to keep kind of the day-to-day stuff going. So it actually frees me up to keep a relationship with a client and actually communicate with them, not just ask them bullet points. So, and then I have a virtual assistant that I hired out in the Philippines. I've worked with for almost 5 years now. Master's degree, English is great. So every Monday she calls 20 of my agents that I've had really good dialogues or more consistent transactions. Every Monday she calls them and asks them, and this is a Carl White thing too. It's like, did you work or play this weekend? And if they worked, great. Any new home buyer leads, I can follow up for you and turn them into pre-approvals.
And how does that produce for you? I mean, does she get results, or
it's a little bit of business. It's not a huge killer, so it's not like, oh, everybody rush out and do this, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's probably responsible for 5 transactions a year. So it totally pays for the fee on the virtual assistant and the $30 for the Skype line. So she's dialing from a 949 number when she calls them.
Have you ever, this is news to me, so didn't even know you did that. That's awesome. Have you ever tried to push her outside of the 20 people that you know actively and said, here's a target list, maybe here are 100 agents, and maybe try to get some initiatives?
I've shied away from that, honestly, because Orange County is so saturated.
Yeah.
And I'm just such a big fan of looking back and seeing what's worked, and that's been the organic growth from real connections I built in a transaction.
Sure.
And that's where those 20 agents came from, is because there was something beyond the business that we connected over.
Okay.
And then she also helps me with some database cleanup, and she'll run property profiles and deed history searches and stuff like that. So, Casey and I can zinger an email list, and we go home at night and walk in the morning, and there's an email with all the property profiles waiting for us. So
yeah, and one thing that may be cool, I don't know if you've ever tried this, but maybe offering up single property websites to these agents. Did you work or play? Oh great, you've got some new listings. Can we create a single property website for you? That might be a kind of a soft.
Yeah, we do offer that up. I've noticed a wave for those considering it, trying to kill a buzz, but I've noticed a wave where more and more companies, agencies are starting to do that. Like Compass is huge on that.
Yeah. I think
the small boutique shops,
sure,
there's definitely some value on them.
Those massive companies have a lot of technology, just like big mortgage companies have a lot of technology, but the smaller mom and pop shops, or maybe some of these like discount, like I don't know if like an EXP model or a big block, because it's you get 100% of the commissions. We don't charge any.
Exactly.
I imagine they're not providing much in the way of technology since the commission payout is so high. So it'd be interesting to see if maybe some of those.
And that's a good topic just to call and inquire, if nothing else, and see where the conversation leads.
Yeah. Cool. Well, awesome, man. Any other nuggets that you want to share with everybody today, or you think we covered it?
I think I'm just trying to really be mindful of the fact that, I have jumped a lot on the volume and the units, and we're all a team. So RWM is a family. I don't want to like eat more food than my share at the table, right?
Mm,
So I'm just trying to be mindful of that. So Casey and I really break down a file and try and get it well structured before we're wasting processing's time and my processor and the underwriter's time.
sure.
I think Matt can probably attest, unless you guys have numbers, but the closing ratio is pretty high. If it goes into the pipeline where it's burning RWM calories, it's
Hmm.
closing at probably 95% or more of the
Nice.
time.
That's awesome.
So, but that's just from coming from background of managing companies like yourself, like you used to. You got to be aware of the big picture and make sure your part of the puzzle isn't consuming too much of it and letting everybody get to the finish line, because it just makes us all stronger.
Yep, 100%. Well, awesome, man. I think the only closing note that I would have, and I know you're doing this, Scott's doing this, a lot of our originators are, but this is definitely the time to reach out to your database and check in. And I think the most simple script
Yeah.
isn't even a script. It's just like, hey, I'm just checking in. How are you doing? How's the family doing? How's working at home going for you? And let them go into that. And then, realistically, we have something of great value to offer, which would be, is there a target interest rate that I can track for you that would make an impact in your monthly mortgage payment that would help you out in this time? And I think most people are going to say, here it is. Even if they're at 3.5, they've got a great rate. It's like, 3%, that would make an impact. So I think if we're not doing that, that is such a simple thing that we can do. It's not salesy. It's just, look, I want to look out for you. Give me a number to
Yeah.
track. Let me try to make a difference and see if we can't hit that target number. If we can't, we can't. But I think this is the time to think about target rates. It's time for some people maybe to look at consolidating the length of time. Is a 15-year, does that make
That's a great point. To follow up on that, if you're going to reach out to them, not just about a rate target, but keep your ears open for an opportunity. If you're talking about working at home and how COVID's changed their life, people are starting to realize their home's not big enough. They're starting to think about moving because maybe their companies come down and said, hey, you're going to work at home now. We're cutting the leases, right? We're trying to save money. So be mindful and aware of those life-changing impacts, And the other thing could be, we're moving somewhere else, or we love our house now that we're here more and we want to shorten the term, we want to get it paid off. So
Yeah.
definitely always listen with open-ended questions, right?
Awesome. Well, thanks, Rick. Appreciate the
Yeah.
time today. Thanks for checking in with me.
Yeah, pleasure. Thanks, guys. Go get them.
Thanks.